and I'm a front-end engineer at Remote. And at Remote, I deal with a lot of forms, like a lot. So I decided to combine some of the challenges, traumas, and lessons into a talk. So today I'm going to talk about forms with JSON schemas. Now, to explain this, I need to give you some context. At Remote, the most complex part is employment contracts, like your salary, time off, so on. And a contract in Portugal is not the same as in Romania. Sure, they are similar, but the law is different. For example, I'm from Portugal, and I work from home. I work in a company called Remote, so obviously I work from home, right? Anyway, but the thing is, did you know that if you work in Portugal from home, your boss, your employer, needs to give you an extra allowance at the end of the month? How cool is that? And that's like a Portuguese thing. It doesn't happen in most countries. And did you know that there are some countries out there where you don't get 12 salaries, you get 13 salaries, like a Christmas bonus at the end of the year? Like, what? Cool. But from all the countries, the most complex or extensive one is China. Like, the amount of data, oops, what's happening? Here, China, complex, I know. The amount of data we need to ask to create a compliant contract, it almost feels illegal. Anyway, the point here, you don't expect to do all of these forms in hard-coded, in your front-end HTML forms. Like, we need something to automate this. Let me give you an example. This is based on a contract in Netherlands, a tiny, tiny fraction, where you can hire someone part-time or full-time. You say, oh, you work 20 hours, you get 10 days of time off. You send it to the server, all good. Now, if you decide to hire full-time, the law is totally different. So no, as a full-time, you need to work more, like 36 hours. And there is this law in Netherlands where the time off needs to be at least half of the working hours. So if you work 36, it's 18, right? And if you are full-time, you also need to provide a holiday bonus. Again, this is for full-time, part-time, no bonus. So full-time, you send it, all good. Now the thing is, forms are more than forms. You have this data, but you want to see it outside the form. For example, later on in a list. And notice the things that are similar. It's the same values, the same labels, the same order. And if something is invalid, for example, the time off, save it. You also want to see the errors. And notice it's the same error message. It has to be at least half of the working hours. And so we are beyond forms. And how do you call a lot of forms together? No? A list. A table. And the thing is, this is not just a table. Here's the thing. You create a contract, right? But the law changes over time. So over time, your contract might become invalid. So this table is not just a table. It's like a matrix tool for our operations team to evaluate all the contracts and fix them on the spot. Like, again, here, save it, all valid. Now, this is just a tiny ecosystem, but I think you get the idea of all the challenges with forms. The challenges basically are, I call these challenges of full-stack forms, but actually what I mean is challenges of data representation and validation. So, the more obvious one, the rules change a lot. The law, new fields, new validations, so on, you know the drill. Then, it's different UIs, forms, lists, tables, you name it. And then, oops, spoiler alert. Something is wrong with this clicker, I don't trust it. Anyway, okay, you got it. Then the thing is, the multiple platforms is not just about the web. We also have mobile users. So whatever you saw there, it also needs to be on the mobile. And then we have some partners who use only the API. So they also need all this information through the API, no UI. And last but not least, well, good luck with your multiple deployments and version control. So the solution for this, to automate everything, is JSON schemas. That's our biggest bet. Basically, it's a language or a tool to annotate and validate JSON data. Now, before we move on, I have something to confess. I've been working with JSON schemas for a while, and I still don't know how to say it. I don't know if it's JSON or JSON. I feel like Ron in Harry Potter is like Leviosa, not Leviosa. So I don't know how you say it. I don't care. This is not magic. say it as you want. Now, to learn it, let's learn it together here with the playground. On the left side, you have a basic JSON JSON schema, and then on the right side, you have the data. So type string, data, hello, everyone, it's valid. Now, if I change it to a number, it's invalid. The value must be a number. And now 1, 2, 3, good. In our case, it's a contract, so it must be an object, right? Object, valid. Now, excuse me, I don't have Copilot in this fancy playground, but I have a bunch of snippets, old-fashioned, okay? So we have a contract, and we have a basic JSON schema. So a JSON schema is a little bit descriptive, but the point is you can describe each one of the properties. So the schedule is not just a string, it's a enum, part-time and full-time. Holidays is the same. Then working hours and time off are integers. And then you can also specify which ones are required. Now, remember that thing about the time off where if you are a part-time, you work less than a full-time? You can do that in JSON schema as well with conditionals. And conditionals are kind of verbose. It's like an object, if, then, else. And it looks something like this here. So at the bottom, you can have multiple conditionals. In this case, it's just one. If, then, else. So if the schedule full-time, then the properties, working hours, 36 to 40. Otherwise, it's less hours. OK, so now if I do, I don't know, working hours 30, it should say, look, no, it must be smaller. And if it's part-time, it says, yay, it's valid. Now, here's the thing. This is UI, right, the web. But the beautiful part of JSON schemas is that it works in any language. It's universal. So any server, any client, you can use this as a single source of truth. But we are not done yet. Here, remember the part of the holiday bonus. Like, it's mandatory if you are full-time, but it's not allowed if you are a part-time. So if I go back here as a full-time, and I remove this, it should say, look, it's invalid, it's missing. Now, the way to do it is in the then clause, you have the properties, and then you specify the required. So required, I don't know how to type, give me a break, and holiday bonus. There you go, holiday bonus is required. So now if I add it again, valid. The thing about part-time is that if I send part-time, it should say, look, the holiday bonus is not allowed. How do you do that in JSON schemas? Basically, you pass it as false. So holiday bonus, false, inside the else clause. Now it says, look, holiday bonus is not allowed. So you remove it, and it's valid. So we got the covered basics, the basics covered, fields and validations. By this time, or by this point, I think it's clear for you that you can take this and generate a form, or more than a form, a list, a table, you name it. And guess what? We were not the first ones to come up with this idea. Actually, the JSON schema ecosystem is full of tooling out there. The most common one is validators. You have validators in over 20 languages, so you just pick one. Then it's also very common for documentation, like you have TypeScript and you want to convert to JSON schemas or SSoT or whatever. It also have a lot of things here. And the thing I want to talk about is, give me a second. Again, it's a lot, okay? Here, web UI generators. And there's also a bunch of them, and all in JavaScript. You know what this means? This means that we are JavaScript engineers, so of course, we like to reinvent the wheel. Now, to be fair, there are two reasons for this to happen. The first one is that there are no official guidelines on how you deal with UI. And the second one is that most of these tools are stuck to a stack. It's React, it's Angular, it's Vanilla, it's Tailwind, it's whatever you want. So we decided that we want to go headless, so create a headless generator. And the good thing is that you have full control over the UI and the stack. Now, if you decide to do a web UI generator, it looks something like this. I really need a, let's try the clicker again. So, okay, whatever function you have, you pass a JSON schema, and you get two things, the fields and the validate. The validate, it's a function, nothing fancy. You pass the values, you get the errors. But the fields is the interesting part. This is where we got opinionated and tried to improve the developer experience. The fields is not an object, it's an array with all the fields, and then each object is a direct match from the JSON schema. So we give it a name like working hours, and then the title and the type. I still don't trust the clicker, got them. Then, when it comes to know if the field is required or not, you don't need to go through all the JSON schema, the require array, the conditionals to see if it's not. No, we add it right there, true or false. You're welcome. Now, the other part that we also do is that we evaluate the conditionals on runtime, so you get there immediately, like the minimum and the maximum right there. And remember that part about the holiday bonus, if it's allowed or not? We also include it. We call it is visible, don't ask. But the thing is, the trick here is that when you call validate, depending on the values that you pass, the fields will mutate on the fly. So if you pass full-time, then the holiday bonus will be visible. How cool is that? So with this headless output, you can easily take it and build your UI, like a dynamic form or a dynamic list. And this, okay, now it's working. Here, dynamic list, you map through all the fields. You skip the ones that are not allowed. You show an error if you have to, and that's it. Now, to be fair, there's way more than this when it comes to the UI, like the labels, the order of the fields, the error messages. What if you need more advanced validations? A lot of things to be creative. Let's see it together. Now, we have the playground again, but now instead of being a plain JSON, it's a UI. Ugly, but it's a form. You get the point. Now, the very first thing is this casual field, obviously is not a text, it's a radio. And here's the thing. Again, there are no guidelines, but the cool thing about JSON schemas is that you can write whatever you want, and it's still considered a valid. They just ignore extra keys. But there is this convention. If you have an extra key, it should start with X. X whatever, so like an extra annotation. So we decided to call it XUI. JSF stands for the name of our generator, JSON schema form. And here, we decided to, be creative. And in our case, we decided to create input type. And you say, look, it's a radio. And there you go. Could be a radio, could be a select. You get the point. Could be, I don't know, a text area. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, a radio. Now, the next part is, okay, we have the types properly set, but the labels are missing. Like, we are showing part-time, full-time as a database value, but actually you want a real label. The way to do that is, instead of using enum, you use another keyword where you can be explicit for each one of the values. So it looks something like this. Here, one off, and then you pass the database value or the API value, and then the actual label, so something like this. And you can even pass more things like a description. Also works. And then you can use this for each one of the fields. Like the schedule could be like, I don't know, employee type. You can be, again, creative. Okay, we got this covered. Now let me fix this because I don't like to. Okay, perfectionism. What I was about to say, the error messages. For example, if you forget the working hours, it says required field. That's boring. Like, we want to explain more. Like, by law, it needs to be explicit. I don't know. Again, this is not, there are no guidelines about this in the official spec. So, guess what? We came up with another custom keyword. JSF error message. And then we can be explicit about each error, like if it's required, minimum, maximum, whatever. So in this case, required, by law, you shall do this. I don't know. And now it's at the, wait, this is a schedule. Wait, it's on the working hours. See, it works, it works. It works. Yes, it works. By law, you shall do this. And the cool thing is that you can also apply this anywhere. For example, in the conditionals, if it's a part-time and you work too many hours, it will say, look, a part-timer cannot work more than 35 hours. Cool. Now, there is one last validation that I didn't cover before, which is this thing with the time off. You know, the time off needs to be at least half of the working hours. Believe it or not, that type of validation is not possible with the JSON schemas. And I'm like, what? It's like A bigger than B, why not? Anyway, so we are on our own. We kind of explore how you can have this type of logic in JSON. And we found this tool, another tool called JSON logic. Again, this is not JSON schema. This is just another tool on top of JSON. And it looks something like this. 1 bigger than 5, basically the operator is the key, bigger, and then the operands is the left and right, so 1 and 5. So again, obviously, it supports variables. So time off bigger than 5, you put it as an object with a var. So time off 1, false. Time off 6, true. And obviously, we can write our rule. Time off bigger than working hours split by 2. I know what you are thinking. It's ugly. But it works. It works. It's universal. It works in any language out there. You just need to improve your validator. So basically, we took this and we applied it on top of the JSON schema. And then we improved our validator, our generator, both on the backend and on the frontender, to have this type of logic working. And it's something like this. At the end, we have this X logic with a bunch of validations. We give it a name, and then you write the rule. And also you can pass the error message if you want. And then the only thing that you need is to connect this validation to a specific field. So in our case, it's the time off logic validations. You say which ones you want to run. And with this, boom, it has to be at least half of the working hours. So there's a bunch of other things we've done. We are really pushing JSON schemas to the next level. We are being opinionated and creative, but it's working. It's not perfect, but it's working fine. We are happy with it. Now, there's another thing or another places where you can use JSON schemas, which is AI. Okay, let me try this again. I was not planning to talk about AI, but you know, it's a trend, so why not? So this is the basics of OpenAI, and you ask, for example, who is Mozart, and you get text. But many times you don't want text, you actually want JSON. And there is this cool thing that OpenAI now supports called structure outputs, where you say, look, I want the answer to be in JSON, and guess how you type that JSON? With JSON schemas. So if you have something like who is someone, you can be explicit. Look, I want the name, the birth year, the bio, some hobbies, whatever. And then you get it. And this is 100% accurate. Like, it will never deviate from this structure. Maybe you are already familiar with this using SSoT, but if you remember, you need to convert SSoT to JSON schemas. They give you a helper for that. And to be honest, OpenAI does not support everything in JSON schemas. For example, does not support conditionals, so you kind of need to simplify it. Okay, don't go crazy. Like, you need to cut all the conditionals, all the custom properties. Yeah, but you can trick AI in the input, in the prompt. You can tell AI, look at the original JSON schema. You give it as a string. Look at it. Take into account to give you the answer. So even though it will not be 100% reliable, it will read the titles, the descriptions, the context, the error messages, the conditionals, and it will give you a better answer. And you know where you can apply this? Back in forms. So I can come here and say, hire me part-time, type, whatever, should work. Should work? There you go, it works. And you can even say, no, after all, it's full-time. Should be smart enough to give you 40. No, too many hours. Part-time with less hours. Should be smart enough to give you 36. So it's like... So with JSON schemas, you have the full circle. It's not only to validate between the server and all the clients. It's not just to generate the UI, any type of UI, beyond forms, but also to give you data, predictable data. Like in real practice, we use this, for example, for a time off form. When you need to ask for time off, you go there and like, look, I'm sick yesterday and today, boom, it pre-fills everything for you. How cool is that? Okay, that's all I have for you when it comes to using JSON schemas. Now, the next part, oops, an accident here, it's creating JSON schemas. After all, it's a new, not language, but a new tool, and we had to put everyone learning that. And so the first challenge was learning. So besides documentation, we also created linters. So look at this. While you are typing, it tells you, look, you forgot the XUI, it's mandatory. And by the way, you also need to put the input type, and gives you autocomplete of all the types that we support. And if it's a radio, it tells, look, you also need to pass the options as a one-off. You know how we've done this? Can you guess it? JSON schemas. I don't know if you know this, but some editors like VS Code and others, you can type JSON files using JSON schemas. So yes, we have meta JSON schemas to type our JSON schemas. Everything is a JSON schema. Traumatized, but yeah, it works. It works, okay? There are some limitations, but it's nice, a nice interactive way for people to learn. Now, the next challenge was duplication. Obviously, we have a lot of different rules around the world, but we also have a lot of things in common. For example, the salary currency. It's the same in every contract. You don't expect us to write that field over and over again. So we took the idea of components back into JSON. So another custom key, but this is different. This is $X, which means it's a key that runs precompiled during runtime, and it gets translated to the actual final field that you want to do. So we are no longer writing JSON schemas. We are writing JSON with superpowers that then gives you JSON schemas. And you know what's the cool part about components? Props. So you can pass a configuration. Like, this field is required. It injects the required on the right place. If you have some conditional, you write it right there, and it injects in the right place of the JSON schema. We can even have some more crazy stuff, but yeah, I will skip that. The other challenge was the runtime access. For example, you need to have something about the user or something in the database, feature flags, whatever. X eval, I know, but it works, okay? It's not perfect, you just need good guardrails and unit testing and stuff to make sure that you are not blowing up everything. But for example, the salary, it's not hard-coded, we have it somewhere in the database. Looks like this. Now, the next step, we are creating JSON schemas, we are writing JSON, but at some point it's like, look, we can just create a form builder and give all this power to our operations team. Like, they control the fields, they control the validations, and the output is JSON schemas, and then we can use that in all the servers, all the clients. Perfect. I mean, it's not perfect, but it works. Okay, I could do a second talk about all the bad things, but still good, it's still positive. Anyway, so all of this in, I still have time, but all of this in 25 minutes. So to recap, we got through the challenges of handling forms. We learned the very basics of JSON schemas. We got to see a little bit of the ecosystem. We built a web UI generator, headless, okay, so simple. And I don't trust the slides. See, spoilers. And then we used JSON schemas in AI and brought it back to our ecosystem. And then we went beyond JSON, like you name it, whatever you want, but it's no longer JSON. And all of this is private, but there is one thing that is open source, which is our UI generator, remote JSON schema form. Give it a try. Like, it's headless, so I'm sure it will work as long as you use JavaScript or TypeScript. It's opinionated, so I can't fight on that. It's okay. But that's it. Thank you so much.